evening and welcome to the Coon Rapids City Council meeting for Tuesday, December 1st, 2020. If you could please all rise and join us for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Griscoviac.
Here.
Councilmember Kicker.
Here.
Councilmember Demmer.
Here.
Councilmember Geisler.
Here.
Councilmember Johnson.
Here.
Councilmember Wells.
Here.
Mayor Cook.
Here. Thank you. First item on our agenda is to adopt this evening's agenda.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Demmer, second by Kicker to adopt the agenda. Any change or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? And the agenda is adopted. And our very first item then under proclamations and presentations is to welcome Chief Piper up.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, council, city staff, citizens of Coon Rapids. As fire chief, I would like to take the opportunity this evening to introduce you to two of our newest career firefighters. The fire department takes great pride in the service we provide to the citizens of Coon Rapids. Our mission statement says, "The mission of the Coon Rapids Fire Department is to provide efficient services designed to protect lives and property from the adverse effects of fires, medical emergencies, or exposure to dangerous conditions. We pursue this mission with determination and resolve, with emphasis on dedication, compassion, and constant improvement. To accomplish this mission, we need trained, dedicated, and compassionate personnel. With that said, it is my distinct pleasure to introduce you to Paul Matonage and Anthony Tverberg. Paul is a lifelong resident of Coon Rapids, graduating from Coon Rapids High School in 2001. He has been trained through the Anoka County Fire Academy and is nationally registered emergency medical technician. He has served as the city as a paid-on-call firefighter for 5 years, while also being an instructor for our Youth Fire Explorers program and is helping to develop our department's fledgling CPR training program. Paul has been married to his wife, Jocelyn, for over 8 years, and together they have a 4-year-old daughter, Lucia. He looks forward to continuing his service with the city in which he lives and contributing further to its improvement. Anthony was first exposed to the fire service by a neighborhood family, the Thornburgs, who took him in and treated him like another son. Through talks at frequent dinners to station visits, his passion grew. He has an associate's degree in fire science technology and a bachelor's degree in fire service administration from Eastern Oregon University. Anthony has been a paid-on-call firefighter and resident of Coon Rapids since 2016. Okay, now we go here. Paul and Anthony, you've been chosen and trained to be a firefighter for this organization. In addition to responding to emergencies, your duties are many. As a firefighter, you are responsible to maintain your knowledge, skills, and physical abilities. You're also responsible to provide quality service to our customers. It will be your duty to respond whenever called. Your chiefs, your crew, and the community rely on your abilities and professionalism in the performance of your role as firefighter. I know you'll provide many years of excellent service to our city, the community that you call home. That said, now we will have the formal pinning of Paul's badge, number 80, followed by him swearing an oath of office performed by Mayor Jerry Cook. So I'd like you to introduce you to Paul's wife, Jocelyn Matonage, as the person he selected to pin on his badge. Come on.
All right, well, welcome, Paul. If you would, let's see, I'm going to hold the mic for you, and I am going to read this in small enough little segments that we can need to remember. If you'd raise your right hand. I, Paul Matonage,
I, Paul Matonich,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the policies and procedures
will support the policies and procedures
of the Coon Rapids Fire Department.
of the Coon Rapids Fire Department.
I will faithfully, honorably, and to the best of my ability
I will faithfully, honorably, and to the best of my ability
protect the safety and lives of my fellow firefighters
protect the safety and lives of my fellow firefighters
and citizens whose care has been entrusted
and citizens whose care has been entrusted.
to me.
To me.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. Thank you. Paul, can you, yeah, here we go.
Okay, now we'll have the formal pinning of Anthony's badge, number 81, followed by him swearing an oath of office performed again by Mayor Jerry Cook. So I'd like to introduce you to Tom Thornburg as the person he selected to pin on his badge.
Anthony, it appears that we pronounce all of the syllables in this last name. That is correct. All right. I was listening to the chief and I went, oh, none of those are silent. All right, Anthony, if you would raise your right hand. I, Anthony Tverberg, or however you say that.
I, Anthony Tverberg,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the policies and procedures,
that I will support the policies and procedures
make sure to get that on, of the Coon Rapids Fire Department.
of the Coon Rapids Fire Department.
I will faithfully, honorably, and to the best of my ability
I will faithfully, honorably, and to the best of my ability
protect the safety and lives of my fellow firefighters
protect the safety and lives of my fellow firefighters
and citizens whose care has been entrusted to me.
and citizens whose care has been entrusted in me.
So help me God.
So help me God.
All right, nice job.
Thank you.
All right, well, it was fun. Anything else, Chief? We're good, thank you. We're good. Thanks, everybody. All right. We're up to item 2, to approve the minutes of the November 17th meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Demmer, second by Wells. Any, what's that word, discussion or corrections? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? And that motion carries. We have a bunch of items on our consent agenda this evening. The first one is to approve the waiver of Christmas tree sales and license fees for Boy Scout Troop 212. James Davis, on behalf of Boy Scout Troop 212, has requested the council consider a waiver of the $85 license fee and the $25 background investigation fee for operating a Christmas tree lot. Boy Scout Troop 212 has submitted an application to operate a Christmas tree lot at 1919 Coon Rapids Boulevard. The troop has requested this in years past, and the council has always granted the waiver. The Boy Scouts are a nonprofit organization. So with this item, we would be looking to approve waiver of the $85 license fee and the $25 background investigation fee for Boy Scout Troop 212 to operate a Christmas tree lot at 1919 Coon Rapids Boulevard. That would be down in front of the Coon Rapids VFW down there. The next item on our consent agenda, which is item 4 on this evening's agenda, is to adopt Resolution 20-99, accepting business sponsorship donations for 2020. The City of Coon Rapids launched a business sponsorship program in 2019 to encourage partnerships in the community related to community events and recreational program, and the sponsorship program was rolled out at the beginning of 2020, but shortly thereafter, the COVID-19 pandemic forced the cancellation of many, probably all, the events and programs. As a result, this also changed the scope of the sponsorship program. With fewer events and programs, the city did not pursue as many sponsorships and partnerships, and economic uncertainty forced many businesses to pause on potential sponsorship advertising opportunities. The city did secure several sponsorships for the modified Night to Unite event, which was a successful event, alternative to the in-person visits. Several local businesses partnered with the city in this event by offering in-kind donations or $250 bronze level sponsorships, all of which helped to defray costs of organizing the event. RMS Company also committed to sponsoring the Rec on the Spot program for 2020, but unfortunately the program was canceled due to the pandemic. Rather than seek a refund of their sponsorship dollars, RMS decided to partner with the city on the program in 2021. The city would like to thank all the businesses that supported events and programs in 2020. RMS, $2,000 for the Rec on the Spot. That money will be used towards the 2021 program. And then Night to Unite. Each of these are $250 bronze sponsors, Alloy Brewing, North Star Towing, Raising Canes, Coon Rapids Police Association, Coon Rapids Fire Department Community Fund, and then Cub Foods Northdale did in-kind donations of $10, $20 gift cards, and then Rebel Sports did in-kind printing of event T-shirts. So we're looking to adopt Resolution 20-99 to accept contributions made to the 2020 Business Sponsorship Program. Next item is item 5, recommend reappointment of a Charter Commission member. The term of one Charter Commission member, Stephanie Mastler, something like that, expired the end of October 2020. She is eligible and willing to serve another 4-year term, effective January 2020 and expiring January 2024. In addition, Charter Commission member Milo Hartman resigned from the Charter Commission. Statutes require that a minimum of 7 and no more than 15 persons serve on the Charter Commission. Currently, the Charter Commission has 9 members, and at this time, only Stephanie Massler's term has expired. In 2004, the Minnesota legislature revised Minnesota statute to remove any limits on the number of terms. So prior to this revision, Charter Commission members were limited to serve 2 consecutive 4-year terms. So the council's recommendation for appointments are forwarded to the Honorable Douglas Meslow, Chief Judge for the 10th Judicial District, who makes the final appointment. In closing, we thank Milo Hartman for his service on the Charter Commission, and we are asking to recommend to the Chief Judge for the 10th Judicial District that Stephanie Masteller be reappointed to serve another 4-year term effective January 2020, with said term to expire January 2024. Next item on our consent agenda is item 6 on this evening's agenda, and that's to adopt Resolution 20-98, establishing polling locations for 2021. An amendment to the election law, which took effect January 1st, 2018, requires that the city designate polling places every year by December 31st, even if the polling places have not changed from the year before. As a result, the polling places designated by year end will be effective for the following calendar year elections. In the event of an emergency or if polling place becomes unavailable, there are provisions within the law to allow the city council to designate an alternative polling location. So we're looking to adopt Resolution 20-98, a resolution establishing polling locations for 2021. Item 7 is to accept a sanitary sewer easement from the Housing and Redevelopment Authority in and for the city of Coon Rapids. This is down in Port Riverwalk, and this is over the vacated Zilla Street. So with this, we're looking to accept an easement for sanitary sewer purposes from the Housing and Redevelopment Authority in and for the city of Coon Rapids to be retained over Zilla Street. And item 8 is to approve the 2021 business license renewals. All of the license applications are renewals as indicated in the tabulation, which is what you can see if you're looking at our, our folder here. Most license renewals are complete, with the exception of those businesses missing the indicated items. Certain licenses, such as tobacco and massage therapists, are approved by staff and not part of the attachment. The renewals were processed using the 2021 fee schedule, and all missing items are expected to be received by Friday, December 11th, 2020. I'm not going to read all of them because there are 63 different licensing entities on here, but we're looking to approve the 2021 business license renewals as listed on the attached tabulation, contingent upon receipt of additional information as noted and subject to compliance with all city codes. Item 9 is to accept an informational item. There's been several corporate officer changes for business licenses. City code requires that the city council be notified of any change in legal ownership or beneficial interest of a license holder. The business license renewal applications indicated that the following corporate officers are new, and that's Bruce Van, Buscom maybe at the Coon Rapids VFW, and Angela Simmons and Lindsay Corrin at the Olive Garden, and Lyle Tick at Buffalo Wild Wings. And that's just provided for information only. The next item on our consent agenda is item 10 on this evening's agenda, and that is to approve the City of Coon Rapids purchasing policy and policies and procedure for federal awards administration. 28 pages of riveting reading, in case anybody wants to go through it. It documents the proper process and administration of federal awards received by the city. Additional auditing procedures called a single audit are required when the city receives more than $750,000 of federal funding, and documentation of these policies and procedures are a requirement in order to comply with circulars issued by the Office of Management and Budget, the OMB. Additionally, the federal policy requires the city to have a purchasing policy that meets certain standards, and this has been updated. The city staff updated the city's purchasing policy earlier this year to reflect changes in practices and procedures which follow applicable state statutes and city administrative orders. And this federal policy being presented to council references the city's purchasing policy. Therefore, the council must also approve the city purchasing policy to meet federal requirements. So we're looking to approve the policies and procedures for federal awards administration and the city purchasing policy. And then the item 11 on this evening's agenda, which is the final item on the consent agenda, is to adopt Resolution 20-102, accepting donation for a park bench. We're looking to authorize the acceptance of a $700 donation from Scott Dorff to fund the purchase of a park bench in memory of Marilee Dorff. And Mr. Dorff has donated $700 to purchase a park bench as a memorial to Marilee Dorff. So with this, we're looking to adopt Resolution 20-102 to accept a $700 donation from Scott Dorff, and that is our consent agenda.
Your Honor,
Councilmember Wells.
move the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Wells, second by Kicker. Any discussion, questions, clarifications? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? And that is approved.
Your Honor? I know
Councilmember
we just approved that,
Kraskowiak?
and that's fine, but I did have a question on that $700 donation. Is that park bench going to be designated in any specific park? Does anybody know?
Ms. Lensmeyer?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Gruskoviac, yes. I do not know which one, unfortunately, I can let you know. The
Okay.
Parks Department handles that, I handle the donation acceptance. But yes, they do get to request a specific location.
I'd be interested in that. Thank you.
And the clarification on that was, when you donate a park bench, you do get to pick the park where it's going to go? Is that what it says, kind of? I'll take that as a,
Yes, Mr. Mayor, with guidance with the Parks Supervisor.
okay, all right, thank you. All right, we are on to our public hearings, and this is item 12, the vacation of a public roadway easement for Port Riverwalk. Mr. Brody, are we finally going to wrap this one up tonight?
We are finally going to wrap this up tonight.
All right.
And this, along with the easements, will allow us to transfer this particular property to Centra finally, so
All right, excellent.
step in the right direction.
All right. So this all dates back to February 24th, 2020. The city's Housing and Redevelopment Authority sold its Port Riverwalk redevelopment site to Centra North LLC for construction of a 136-unit detached townhome development. Since that time, development work has commenced as planned, including installation of much of the public infrastructure and construction of several housing units. At the time, the HRA retained ownership of 2 small areas of the overall site because of ongoing title proceedings related to these areas. Additionally, the title company retained escrows totaling $220,000, which will be released to the HRA when the title proceedings are complete and the parcels can be conveyed to the developer. This arrangement was memorialized in a purchase agreement amendment approved by the HRA on August 20. Since it was expected at that time that resolution of these title matters would extend beyond the closing date for the remainder of the site. One of these areas corresponds to the right-of-way for the former location of Zilla Street, which has since been relocated. On September 15th, 2020, the council adopted Resolution 20-83, requesting a public hearing for public roadway easement vacation and set a public hearing for November 4th, 2020. On November 4th, 2020, council opened and continued the public hearing to December 1st. The delay in consideration of the vacation was necessary because Anoka County had not issued an amended order on this matter or the new certificate of title to HRA for the Zilla Street property. Since that council meeting, our office has received the amended order which directs the Anoka County Registrar of Titles to issue a new certificate of title to the Coon Rapids HRA for the portion of Zilla Street that is located within the Port Riverwalk development. And the process for vacating the easement under the city's charter requires a public hearing and passage of a vacation resolution. So, does anybody have any questions before I open up the public, or the public hearing is already open, right? So we're just sort of continuing the public hearing? Anybody have any questions before we formally continue it? All right. So with that, we will formally continue the public hearing for the vacation of the public roadway easement for Port Riverwalk. Is anybody here to address council for the vacation of the easement in Port Riverwalk for that portion over Zilla Street? Seeing no one here for that public hearing, we will close the public hearing and look to council. And this is something that needs a 4/5 majority vote in favor of the resolution to vacate.
Your Honor,
Councilmember Johnson?
I'll move adoption of resolution number 20-97, vacating the public roadway and easement. The vacations to be commenced on the initiative of the city require a 4/5 majority.
Second.
Motion by Johnson, second by Geisler. Discussion?
Mayor,
Councilmember Griscoviac?
just to confirm then, this final piece will clear up all of the outstanding title issues with the county of Anoka. Is that correct?
No, actually, there's 2 other parcels, smaller ones that
That's
are,
wishful thinking.
that have a couple of court dates coming up, and ironically, they finally got scheduled. They're in person, they're in December, and now the courts have been shut down, so we're still waiting if those will be held virtually. Those are just 2 little small pieces that need some follow-up on, but they shouldn't, just a matter of getting them done. But this was sort of the big piece, and so there's just a couple little pieces that are left, but unfortunately, we're hoping to have it wrapped up by the end of the year, and we're still hoping for that, but we're not sure given the status of the court right now.
But this is a necessary part of getting the issuance of a new certificate of title.
No, this wasn't. We needed this because the certificate of title actually gave the underlying property that we're vacating to the HRA to make sure when we vacated it that we knew where it was going. It was going to the HRA, who's now the owner of the property, so
Okay.
that the HRA can then convey it to Centra. So it was kind of we had to make sure the pieces fell in the right order, and so that's what we're doing tonight.
Gotcha.
Is vacating it now that we know that we own the underlying fee,
All right.
or the HRA does at least.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on this?
So just the other portion of that then, that next step, following this step, would finalize it, and then we're clear of it, the title company then would issue that retained escrow amount?
That's correct. And there might be a breakdown between the two. We may get some of it released now when we deed over this particular piece. I can't remember the specifics of that, but
Okay.
we'll close on this piece fairly shortly here, maybe even by the end of this week.
Okay, just wanted to make sure I understood how that was working. Thank you, I'm good.
And on a related note, I talked to the Centro rep down there, and they have been busier than gangbusters down there, putting up homes. Their first single level is supposed to be, the model is supposed to be open the end of December. They're real excited for that to get open, but they've got their two-story models up, and they've been selling briskly.
Looking good.
So. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Boy, that sounded like 4/5. That sounded like 7/7, really.
Your Honor,
Councilmember Wells?
just because it's in this area, if I could make a quick comment, I've been asked about the fact that if you go on Zilla, what used to be Avocet, to go to westbound Coon Rapids Boulevard, there's only one left turn lane, and it used to be two. The center lane could go across or left. I spoke with Mr. Himmer, and he said they'll be monitoring that, and if they think that's a problem, they can change it back to how it was before.
Okay. Very good. In case anybody ever leaves their house and goes back to work again, is that what you're saying? All right, item 13 is to hold a truth and taxation hearing, and I see Mr. Stemwell over at the mic. You're going to go through some stuff for us, I'll bet.
Yes, Mayor and Council, I am. So as you mentioned, we are holding the truth and taxation hearing. Prior to the hearing, we are obligated to present the city budget and levies and sort of describe the major components of the budget. And so that's a statutory requirement, and I'm here to fulfill that tonight.
Perfect.
I will mention a couple of things before I jump in. In the back of the room, there are some copies of the budget in brief, which is a 4-page document that we've put together at least 2 years now, that summarizes, again, the major components of the 2021 budget. You can also find the full budget online at our city website under the Finance Department page, or if you just Google search City of Coon Rapids Proposed 2021 Budget, you'd find it as well. So with that, I will jump on in. The budget process is a long one. The public portions of the process start back in August when staff presents to the City Council a proposed city budget. And it's an opportunity at the work session to go through the details of that budget, ask questions. It's done in a public format, so anybody can attend that, ask the same questions, and get that feedback. We need to do that before the preliminary levy is set this year. That levy was set on September 1st. After that levy is set, the council cannot raise the levy, but they could lower the levy if they so desired. The preliminary levy has to be set by September 30th and certified to the county so that truth and taxation notices can be mailed out to property owners across the county. And in this case, property owners should have received those truth and taxation notices here just in the last few days. They were on a little bit of the later side, sending those out this year. I know I personally got mine yesterday, and I know I talked to Chief Piper. He got his on Saturday, I believe. So they're out there. Hopefully everybody got theirs prior to the meeting tonight, because part of the reason for those truth and taxation notices going out ahead of the truth and taxation hearings is so people can attend the meeting if they so choose.
It seemed everybody on the Wexford page had them already. Lots of comments.
That provides an overview of the taxes, not only for the city portion, but for the county, the school district, special taxing districts, things of that nature. And then tonight, it's December 1st, we're here for the truth and taxation hearing, which, as I mentioned, is a statutory requirement. And finally, the city council will need to certify a city levy prior to December 30th. After the public hearing tonight, I will ask the council to consider and adopt the 2021 levies and city budget. 3 core principles as we looked at the 2021 budget this year. The first 2 are pretty common. We want to address core services within our community, pretty straightforward. We also want to respond to any needs that are out there responsibly with our taxpayers in mind. A little different this year, we have to factor in COVID-19, the pandemic, and the related costs, and also the related revenue impacts, of which there were many, both in terms of things that we needed to expend both in 2020 and we're anticipating in 21, but also other things like the CARES Act, which had a pretty big impact on our budget and will going into 2021 as well. I'm just going to highlight some of the major changes or additions to the city budget as we go through by service area. The first one is the police department, and there's a few things going on here that I want to highlight. First is a new part-time position that it'll be a full-time social worker that'll spend part of their time, about half their time, in the city of Coon Rapids as an embedded social worker. This is a joint program with a nonprofit in the city of Blaine. Really, we're trying to address a lot of the unique and challenging calls our city police department has to face, some of which are dealing with mental health issues and social issues that are a challenge. And so we feel that this position will provide some expertise in the department to work with those individuals and help our police department with the training and the guidance they need to work with those individuals in those calls. As part of our 10-year capital plan, we are anticipating replacement of 5 squad cars, which is a fairly typical number in that capital plan. I'll show on that a little bit more later. And we are proposing to add 2 new police officers. Over the last 18 months or so, city staff and the council have had a lot of discussion about police and fire staffing. We're able to include 2 police officers and 1 firefighter in the 2020 budget, proposing the same staffing in the 2021 budget. And I would anticipate a similar request for 2022 as part of a 3 to 4 year plan to build up staffing in an area that really had been stagnant for about 10 years or so. Meanwhile, we had seen growth in population, significant growth in call volume. In the case of the police department, growth in complex calls, as I mentioned, the mental health calls that take certainly more time than your average call would take. So all of that has led to the staff proposing those changes to the city council, and it is included in the 2021 proposal. Under the fire department, we have proposed, and actually under a separate action, the city council has already approved the purchase of fire engine number 2 replacement as part of that 10-year rolling stock capital plan. Let's see, about a month ago, or at least the last meeting, we asked you to advance that just so we could put an order in. It takes about a year to get a fire engine, if you can believe it. And so we did put that order in recently. And as I mentioned, we did request 1 firefighter. Under transportation, we're proposing 6.6 miles of street reconstruction, which is still a fairly aggressive number. What's different this year is we're not relying on MSA or municipal state aid dollars to fund any of those projects because we borrowed ahead on some of those funds. We need to take a pause to catch up a little bit. We will be seal coating 20 miles of streets, which is quite a bit of seal coating to get done next year. And we are proposing the replacement of 2 dump trucks as part of our capital plan. Park improvement fund, some of these projects will sound familiar because they were proposed for 2020 and for various reasons are being held over into 2021, the most significant of which is a part of the park bond referendum. And that's the final leg, which would be completing some trail and sidewalk segments that were initially proposed this year. The major project that was proposed as a part of that's a fairly complicated one. And so we decided to try to push that back in order to see if that works. And we'll have some more information to council on that probably very early next year on the feasibility of that project. Similarly, the soccer complex improvement for the bathrooms and the remodel for the building itself was proposed this year. That was paused because there were some conversations going on with the Soccer Association about an expanded project and money they might be willing to bring to it. Those discussions are still ongoing, but we're more or less anticipating at this point the city would move forward with their leg of the project in 2021 at a minimum to get that done. It's a needed improvement. And then a couple of smaller projects at Kennedy Park for some tennis court reconstruction and basketball courts at Parkside Park, the major components of the park improvement fund for next year. I've talked a little bit about our 10-year capital replacement schedule. City Council is aware of this, but I'll describe it for others. We project out 10 years on all the vehicles that we need to replace across all the various departments because they're very expensive. You think about things like dump trucks, fire trucks, we're talking 200,000. Fire truck, as that you saw there, was 770,000. Those aren't things that you want to sort of deal with the peaks and valleys of in one particular year. And so over time, the city has built up a fund balance through a levy for capital equipment. That fund balance goes up and down each year depending on the amount of projects that we have. But it's really a nice way to smooth out those peaks and valleys with a stable levy each year. So we anticipate which pieces of equipment need to be replaced. We do a lot of analysis prior to proposing those to the city council to make sure they actually need to be replaced. In a lot of cases, pieces of equipment are pushed back a year or two because they have some useful life. Occasionally, there's a piece of equipment that we need to push up earlier because it's a lemon or a failure, and we're putting more dollars into the maintenance and repair of that vehicle than it's really worth. So we move it up a year or two as necessary. So again, here are some of the major pieces that are part of that capital equipment fund, or some capital equipment in the general fund: the engines, the dump trucks, street maintenance equipment, police vehicles, lift truck at Public Works, again, a very expensive piece of equipment. And then our IT equipment comes out of that funding as well. Similarly, we have a facilities construction fund, which goes to fund a lot of our city buildings, City Hall, for example, Public Works, when they need improvements for things like a new roof, new siding issues are going on, we fund it through the facilities construction fund, which generally is funded by dollars that are left over from previous budget years, and isn't a levy in and of itself, but typically there are some big ticket items that get funded out of this. In 2021, these are an example of those big projects. Probably the biggest ones would be the recycling center improvement project. The unique piece of this is we actually got some state capital bonding dollars just recently here that are going to go towards this project. We have to match that. This $200,000 will increase what budget we had for that project to make that match and get that project underway in 2021. A couple of years ago, the city underwent a facilities needs and facilities assessment that really looked at all of our city buildings, kind of where they're at in their useful life, what major repairs and projects need to be undertaken, things of that nature. And so for the last couple of years, we've set aside some dollars to chip away at that list of repairs, those improvements, things like that. This year, we had to replace the roof at City Hall, which was over $1 million. Thankfully, we don't have that level of project going on this year, but we do have a few other ones besides just the maintenance piece. We are looking at phase one of a City Hall door access and security improvement project. All of that infrastructure is original to this building, which is now approaching 25 years old. The equipment itself is past its useful life and needs to be replaced. So we have to move on that. We are looking at an LED light conversion for City Center, which is the building we're in, Public Works, and the Ice Center. The benefit of this project is it'll have a payback over time through reduction in energy costs. And again, it is a nice upgrade for the facility since the lighting here is original to the building and is for Public Works as well. $125,000 for a City Hall project related to sidewalks and landscapes. The concrete in front of the building here is deteriorating fairly quickly. There are a number of issues with it. So that's what those dollars are for. And then finally, very exciting, $50,000 to replace some outdoor warning sirens. So we do have a program to look at those, the poles for the sirens. Not even as exciting as the sirens themselves, just the poles. We do have a process to look at those to make sure they're structurally okay, and there are a few that need to be replaced. A look at our debt service for next year. There's not a lot changing here. The Ice Center debt at $852,000 is pretty comparable to last year. The good news on that front is we did refinance the debt on the Ice Center last year. We actually realized a pretty significant reduction payment on that, which was good news for us and for the taxpayers. Our share in the street reconstruction projects for next year are going up compared to this year, from about $2 million, a little less than $2 million, to almost $2.3 million. Primarily that's because we have a larger share of the projects that we're looking at going into 2021. Again, some of that's related to MSA, deferring those MSA projects into the future. And then the park improvement debt service is actually going down a little bit, which is good news. So all in all, our debt hasn't changed a whole lot looking at 2021 as compared to 2020. As I mentioned, the biggest budgetary impact in our budget, of course, is personnel. And so we did propose those 3 new positions. In the general fund, personnel is approaching around 78–80% of the overall expenditures. So that doesn't include capital equipment purchases and things of that nature. And then like with every other organization, you have other costs like benefits, cost of living increases to wages, things of that nature. All 4 of our contracts are open starting January 1st, 2021. So we're in negotiations on those things now. We did include contingency in the 2021 budget to account for any wage changes that might come up as a part of that. And with one group in particular, we are getting fairly close to a tentative agreement. In fact, that may come before council at the December 15th meeting. In the case of 2 of the unions, we haven't even started discussions yet, and 1 we just started. So those will start to trickle in January, February, which is okay. The unions operate under their current agreement until that new agreement is finalized, and then they get retro paid anything after the agreement's established back to January 1st. I'm going to pause there. I should have mentioned at the beginning, I have a compatriot tonight. This is Kevin Knopik from the Finance Department. He's the Assistant Finance Manager. Francine Hansen was not able to be here with us tonight. Fran's our Finance Director. Typically, she would tag team with me on this presentation tonight, but she couldn't be here, and so Kevin has stepped up, and I'm going to pass the torch to him to give you the rest of the presentation.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Mayor, Council, I'll continue on with the presentation. I'm going to start with the utility funds of the city. We have 3 utility funds within the city, and they are the water, sewer, and storm drain fund. For the water fund, there are no proposed rate increases for 2021. We do have some pretty significant capital improvements proposed in that budget for 2021. There is $4.4 million of water main replacement that will take place along with the street reconstruction projects, and then also about $2.4 million in rehab projects that are budgeted in that fund. The next one, the sewer fund, there are no proposed rate increases for that fund as well. One of the big expenditures in this fund is the Met Council service rate charge that is charged every year for the water flow for sewer in that fund. There is a slight decrease in there from 2020 to about $3.6 million in 2021, and that is just based on the flows within the city. This fund also has some capital improvements that'll happen with the street reconstruction projects, about $390,000 for sewer line replacement, and then about $1 million for relining in the Port River Walk area. The storm drain fund also has no proposed rate increases for 2021, and this fund's major capital improvement expenditure is about $1.1 million in storm drain replacement. This next slide summarizes the total budgeted revenue. You can see the 2021 proposed budget revenue is $78.8 million roughly, and that's a decrease of about 3.6% from 2020. The major decrease in here is in the golf fund. You can see that is going down by about 20.5%. That is mostly due to a required mandatory shutdown of Kendall's due to the COVID-19 pandemic and the restructuring that is going on over there. The next slide summarizes the total budgeted expenditures. The 2021 proposed budget includes $83.1 million of expenditures. This is an increase of roughly 4.5%. The major increase in here is in the capital project funds. This is due to the increase in the street reconstruction and infrastructure, and also some infrastructure improvements that we have going on in some of the city's tax increment financing district. That increase in the project fund is again offset in the golf fund. We are anticipating a decrease in expenditures due to the restructure and mandatory shutdown over at Kendall's due to the COVID-19 pandemic. This slide takes a look at the different levies within the city and also the total city levy in a whole. You can see that the total city levy is about 29.6 million. This is a slight increase of less than 1% from the 2020 levy. The actual increase is about 0.8% from 2020. And you can also see that the city's preliminary tax rate is set to be at 39.021. And I'll go into a little bit more detail on that coming up. This slide summarizes where the city of Coon Rapids falls within the tax capacity rates with other cities in Anoka County. Historically, the city of Coon Rapids has been 6th or 7th on that list. And you can see that over the past 3 years that the tax capacity rate has significantly since 2018, which is a good thing. A 2021 comparison will not be available probably until about February of 2021. This slide takes a look at the historical tax levies for the city, broken down by just the general fund and then the total funds in a whole for the city. As mentioned previously, you can see that the increase from 2020 to 2021 is 0.89%, And this is the lowest increase in the tax levy that the city has seen in the past 10 years. This slide breaks down what that proposed tax levy increase is going to do to the median single-family home assessed value in the city of Coon Rapids. You can see that the proposed 2021 market value is at $238,400. This is an increase of $7,600 from 2020. With that increase, you also see a slight decrease in that homestead exclusion to get your taxable market value. From there, you can see that the projected city tax on that property would be $869, which is only an increase of $7 from the 2020 amount. This is how the property taxes are distributed within the county and the city and other jurisdictions. This shows that the portion makes up about 33% of that amount. The remaining percentages is 35% relates to the school district, 28% relates to the county levy, and then roughly 4% relates to other miscellaneous jurisdictions within the county. As Matt mentioned before, our full budget is on the city's website along with the budget in brief, and that is a very useful document for citizens of Coon Rapids to get a good snapshot of the major impacts that's going on in the city for the proposed 2021 budget.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. Any questions for Kevin or Matt? Anything else you want to, we done?
Mayor and Council, with that, I would just ask you to open the public hearing. We'll take any testimony that the public wants to provide, after which I would ask the council to consider the levy and the budget. Thank you.
All right, so then let's see here. So then we will open the truth and taxation hearing in case anybody wants to address council on the budget or the levy. Yes, ma'am. Then come up to the microphone and give us your name and address and.
My name is Faye Johnson. I live at the Voyager Condominium, 11030 Mississippi Boulevard. And my property tax went up $200, which was 8.8%. And it's the smallest, it's a one-bedroom apartment, fixed income. And I was just wondering, are there any openings of help with that? Is there anything senior citizens can do? It's a lot, $200.
So Faye, what we're looking at tonight is we're looking at the actual budget and the levy, individual property values like that. What I would suggest is calling our assessor and seeing, and double checking on your value, make sure that they've assessed your property properly. Do you think your value is accurate? And have them take a look at it. I don't know if there's any programs that help with property taxes. Matt?
I'm not immediately aware of, in that particular situation, there may be some things that we could look into either through our senior services or through the county. I was going to mention that as well. Kevin's got some cards for our city assessor. I would recommend starting there to first understand your property's value and what's happening to the value, because generally the value is going to be driving your increase this year. As I looked at the property taxes within Anoka County, the county has stayed basically flat. The city has stayed with a very minor increase, more or less flat. There was a small increase to the school district that I saw, but for the most part, as we saw with the median family value home, if your values aren't changing much, your property tax probably isn't going to change much this year. So what I'm going to assume without seeing some of your information is that your value increased more relative to other properties in the city, which means the slice of pie for your property taxes in the city got a little bigger compared to the rest of the property owners, and therefore you're going to take a little more of the property tax burden. So those are things we could walk through with you over the phone, or if there's another way you'd like to approach that, that'd probably be the best place to start.
So my first option would be to call the assessor or anybody.
Yep,
that would be-
Kevin's got some
Yep, we'll give
cards
you
for
some
the
information.
assessor.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for coming in. Thank you, Faye. Is anybody else here to address council on the tax, truth and taxation hearing? Anybody else, truth and taxation hearing? With that, we'll close that portion of the hearing then. Council?
Your Honor?
Councilmember, was it Kicker? There we go.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 20-100, adopting the 2021 budget, and to approve Resolution 20-101, adopting the 2021 tax levy.
Second.
Motion by Kicker, second by Demmer. Discussion?
Hi, Your Honor.
Councilmember Demmer?
Yeah, so this was obviously a tough year to figure out what to do with the levy. There were a lot of different competing pressures between doing our absolute best to keep it as low as possible. The reason it's not zero is for the past few years, despite the fact that crime in Coon Rapids has been going down, the number of calls to police and fire has been going up quite dramatically, and mostly for medical reasons. So police and fire coming and helping people when you call 911. They were at the point where they were quite overbooked, and so we had a goal of authorizing them to slightly increase their force, and then tried to increase that force while also keeping the levy as flat as possible. So we're still fixing roads, we're still responding to 911 calls, and tried to keep it down. Now, as everyone knows, every year we set the rate, and the rate is the average rate across the city. We don't set it for individual houses, individual businesses, and so what happens is the increase of less than 1% is the average. But as you know, averages get a little confusing, because if you're in the type of house that's property value has been rocketing up, you will end up paying more than that 0.8%, and somebody else is paying less. So there's somebody in the city whose taxes actually went down this year, and there's somebody else who they went up by a lot more than the levy. So that part's kind of out of our control. We did our best to keep it as low as we could while still providing service. And so, again, thanks to the city staff for being able to put together something that did that to the best of their ability.
Thank you. Other discussion? Your
Honor.
Councilmember Skoviak?
I'd just like to ask, the resident that just spoke up with, it was really, the issue was with the increase in their value would be our perception on this. So, and I know that the chance to talk about a value of your home is in the early spring, so that has passed. But my question, and I got this from a couple of constituents already that opened up their property tax statements. If they were to contest their property value, their assessed value, next year, can it go, can they contest it next year and it affect next year's 2022 valuation? See what I'm saying?
So, yes, the value notice you get in early 2021 is for pay 2022. And so at that point, you could come to our local Board of Appeal and Equalization. There are other processes at the county and then at the state level, if you so chose to challenge that value. If the value changes at that point, then your truth and taxation notice and your property taxes are based on that adjusted value for 2022. So if you get it reduced in 21, it would affect your 22 pay.
Right, okay. That's what I was asked to clarify, so thank you.
All right, thank you. And we talked about this before, but kudos to staff. Kudos to staff. You've done so well with this, with the budget, and the great presentation this evening, and it's just, I feel it's very well run. So, thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Skoviak? Or, guys, or you?
The other G.
The other G.
I want to say thanks to the staff too. The budget and brief, I know it's just a couple of pages, but it brings all of that data together, makes it easy and digestible for the residents, and you don't have to read the multiple hundred-page book with all the little tiny numbers. It gives you the story, and I think that's been very, very valuable, so thank you.
Yep, absolutely. All right, any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, and that motion carries. And we are up to item 14, consider an audit settlement agreement with Comcast of Minnesota, Inc. Did we know about this? It was like I read this and I went, wow, this doesn't even sound familiar, but it's a nice check.
Yeah.
So,
Mayor and Council, Eric Strauss, CTN Station Manager, is actually on the line here on the Zoom call, and I will ask him to summarize it. But this issue goes back quite a ways, so it's been some time since we touched base. I didn't feel it was necessary to kind of make a big deal of it because it's positive news, it's money coming our way. But certainly we wanted to spend some time explaining it to you tonight. So Eric, you're on. If you're potted up, I guess I'll pass the baton to you.
Thank you, Matt, and thank you, Your Honor, and council members. Just a quick comment, especially for our viewing audience, a little bit about the Comcast revenue streams to the city. They basically pay a franchise fee, much like the energy companies, things like that. And the franchise fees typically have been used for the operating expenses of CTN. And there's also what's called a PEG fee, which the PEG stands for Public Educational or Government fee. And that is restricted to use just for capital only. Just wanted to kind of start with that. But what we're looking at today is considering the settlement with Comcast. This is kind of started back in, basically April of 2018. We were reviewing from 2015. We decided to do a review of both that franchise and the PEG fees from January 1st of 2015 through the first quarter of 2018. And so we do this every so often. This is more of a full review. We ended up, partly because I'm also a resident, there were some things that anomalies in the PEG billing that I noticed actually in November of 2017. And then also we had some issues on the PEG side in 2015. And so that was why we kind of reached out to our cable attorney, Mike Bradley of Bradley Law, and looked into doing an audit. And we were able to work with 4 other entities that are actually multiple city consortiums of local franchising authorities. So that helped lower our costs. I know our costs for this from just the ASHPA and Skolco, was about $3,000 less than if we'd have just done it alone, because there's obviously some strength in numbers going together on that. But basically in September of 2019, I'll say ANS, so I don't have to say ASHPA and Skolco all the time, but ANS, actually we did do bids, worked with Mike Bradley on that, and was excited that we did get ANS to do the review. First off, we had to reach out to Comcast, give them our authority to allow ANS to represent the city and to go through our basically their confidential finances to find out if they had indeed paid the correct amounts in franchise and PEG over that term. And then in September of 2019, they completed the review, and each of our LFAs all worked together, even though, all our information was different, but we worked together as a team in the negotiations. And so it moved along. We heard back from Comcast in December of 2019, and then basically Obviously, they did not agree to everything. That's part of negotiations. And so there was some back and forth. Mr. Bradley led most of that. We had some teleconferences with Comcast, the officials in Philadelphia and other parts of the country. And so worked back and forth. And basically, in October of 2019, or I'm sorry, February of 2020, that's when we really started those negotiations with Comcast, working out the deals on the settlement amount. I'll share that Coon Rapids, we are the smallest in that group of consortium, but the eventual settlement was actually the second largest out of that group. I thought, and again, this is a settlement of underpayment of Comcast. While it's great, as Matt mentioned, to get that check, I want to point out it's basically underpayment. So part of that amount that we're asking, the $113,536 in both PEG and franchise underpayment, is also some penalty and then an interest. And from where Comcast was, they offered some additional percentages to get us closer to what the ANS audit was stating. So it was, some back and forth. So basically, there were three main points highlighted in the packet. Comcast agreed to pay the city that $113,536, payable within 30 days of the settlement. And then the other nice thing that was added was that Comcast would pay the city $7,500 towards our costs for the review. Plus, we did have obviously some costs to our cable attorney, Mr. Bradley. So that helps cover that bill for doing the audit. The other thing is a definition. I've learned a lot more about auditing, so I respect Kevin, who presented earlier tonight, a lot more about what GAAP is and some of that. But basically, we'll be updating the Comcast, the language of gross revenues. That was one of the sticking points and disagreements, even though both parties, both Comcast and our accountant, ANS, were using GAAP. There were always, little things back and forth that they had minor disagreements on as we were working through negotiations. But I thought our settlement, the agreement that we've reached, I was glad all five of us, the other four consortiums and our group stuck together through that period to make sure, keeping that strength in numbers together to reach the best settlement that we could for the residents of Coon Rapids and the city. So again, we'd be asking for approval of that attached settlement agreement between the city of Coon Rapids and Comcast for both the franchise fees and the PEG fees tonight.
Mr. Strauss, you had us at settlement. Anybody have any questions for Eric?
Your Honor?
Councilmember Griscoviac?
I don't know if it's a question for Eric or maybe Dave, but in the Comcast settlement agreement, in section 2, when he determined about that gross revenues definition, it says, quote, "The city's existing cable franchise agreement with Comcast, which expired on December 31st, 2019. I thought that seemed odd. Does this mean that we're without an agreement with Comcast right now?
Mayor and council, I can help answer that, and Eric, if you want to jump in too. Yeah, so we have an established franchise agreement with Comcast that has technically expired. We've been in informal negotiations with them for the last couple of years.
Okay.
Just like with a labor negotiation and a labor agreement, it doesn't just go away once it expires. You just operate under the current agreement until a new one is established. There's really two routes to establish that agreement with a cable franchisee. And that would either be through the informal process, which we're under, or you can go through the formal process, which involves a lot of lawyers and the courts and so forth, that you try to avoid if you have to, unless you get to a point where the two sides just can't agree. We are anticipating, it's been slow going on that front for various reasons, a lot of which are out of our control and in Comcast's hands. However, we anticipate in the next months to start making some more progress on that. So Eric, if there's anything else I missed there, feel free to chime in.
No, I totally agree. I guess I'd just say that because our agreement with Comcast ran out, that isn't why 2020 has been such a weird year.
It's an important
That was, I
contract.
hope not. That was not the reason why 2020 is every year. No.
All right.
Okay,
Well,
thank
if
you.
nobody has any other questions, looks like we do have a motion there, so.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Geisler.
I'll make a motion to approve the attached settlement agreement between the City of Coon Rapids of Minnesota and Comcast of Minnesota Incorporated regarding franchise fees and PEG fees.
Second.
Motion by Geisler, second by Demmer. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And that motion carries. And we are at the open mic portion of the meeting. Is anybody here to address city council for open mic this evening? All right, sir, if you would approach the podium there and give us your name and address. Open mic provides an opportunity for the public to address the city council on subjects that are not part of the regular meeting agenda, and the public is invited to express any concerns they may have with which are relevant to the affairs, policies, or practices of the city of Coon Rapids, and remarks will be limited to 3 minutes. So if you could just give us your name and address, sir.
Thomas Wagner, 11126 Drake Street Northwest in Coon Rapids. Just putting in a proposal, knowing of the laws. I'd like to see if there's any kind of a proposal that we could put up any kind of signs around mailboxes regarding parking too close to them. There's been a problem, preferably in our neighborhood. There could be others that without driving all over looking. But what we have a problem with is we've got people parking too close. And what I've observed from the mail trucks, they've got pretty lousy trucks driving, especially in the snow, winter, and ice. If they're parked too close, they're either not able to get in or out to deliver mail, or they're just plain not going to deliver to us, and then you won't get your bills picked up, mail delivered, etc. Is there any kind of recommendation of any kind of signs we could put up? I know there's no law saying it per state, but I also did read that it's required that they park 15 feet before and after mailboxes, so.
Really? Okay. Well, we've got your name and address, and what will happen is they will put the information together, and they'll send it out to you, and I will read it at the next city council meeting, because I'm kind of curious about this now, too. I always just thought it was common courtesy that you didn't park in front of somebody's mailbox, but.
It's listed as common courtesy mostly. I tried to look up if there's any kind of laws, but from what I saw, this city at least doesn't have it. I don't know if it's a city by city, state by state, or how that works.
Okay.
Unless you guys actually like to propose a law about parking too close to parking mailboxes.
All right,
Your
well,
Honor?
we'll look into it here. Yes, Councilmember Demmer.
I just want to bring this up because we had something similar about parking opposite a driveway, that you're not allowed to park, across from a driveway. And so then one just little piece of advice that worked out well in my neighborhood was dig out the mailbox and move it directly across from the driveway, and you're double covered.
Sure.
Because we had a situation where someone couldn't park legally because the mailbox driveway was really messing up. And so just to make it all work, we just moved them.
Yeah, that's the engineer on the.
Unfortunately, that won't work with us.
Yeah. Just, if it works for people, it worked out well.
All right, thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Anybody else here to address open mic? All right, we'll close that portion of the meeting, and we are on to other business. council. Any other business to come before? Everybody's looking at Matt. No, that's fine. We're at other business. We've come to count on you for other business.
Yeah,
Is there any other
Mayor-
business?
Sure, Mayor and Council, I can jump into a couple of things. We do have a couple of holiday, seasonal related things going on in the city right now. One is the holiday lighting contest. You can find more information on that on our city webpage. There are some prizes for the winners. Our Arts Commission will go around and judge your lights. If you register your address, they will check you out and rank you, and if you win, you think there's prizes of like $150, things like that.
When does that end by?
It's a great question. I'll have to look.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
Joan says December 11th.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
let's
a
see.
couple of
Well,
weeks.
actually, registration deadline is Friday, December 4th. So do it quickly if you're interested. Get those lights up. If you haven't done it yet without the snow, without the warmth, you probably aren't going to do it, but what the heck, we'll give you a shot anyway. And then also we
if
have
you
a
don't
number
have
of.
time, if you don't have time to enter that, just follow along and watch for when they post the list of addresses, because you'll want to go drive by them.
Yep.
Yes.
Sorry, go ahead, Matt.
I was also going to mention that we have a number of donation opportunities here at City Hall. So you'll see things like a box for Toys for Joy, a box for ACBC Food Shelf, Granny's Closet. If you have any donations that would fit those services and those organizations, you can drop them off here. Those three that I just mentioned are through December 14th. We also have an opportunity to donate to Alexandra House, a nonprofit shelter providing services to those fleeing domestic abuse. They're looking for gently used outerwear, coats, hat, mittens, scarves, things of that nature, and you can donate those here through December 11th. The other one was Monday, December 14th, not Friday, December 14th.
All right,
That's all I have.
very good. Any other business to come before council? If you haven't checked out the fire department's Facebook page, pictures of the new fire truck are on there. That looks nice. Okay, I like that stuff.
I do too.
All right,
Hearing no more, move to adjourn.
motion by Johnson, second by Wells to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. We're adjourned.